Ankin Ma'at, Ankin Ma'at. I want to greet you all. I want to make sure that I say that I am so pleased that you've chosen to spend part of your Sunday with us here at the Shrine of Ma'at. Welcome to Kemetic Ascension for October 23rd, 2022. Can you imagine that we are almost bounding towards the end of the year? Very interesting that that's happening. It seems like it's moved very, very quickly. You know, if you have been part of Kemetic Ascension, that I'm going to ask you two questions right at the outset. I'm going to ask you how long you have been partaking in Kemetic Ascension and where are you? Where on the back of our Father Geb are you in the world? Tell us where you are. So those two questions are questions we would love to hear from you. Please shout us out. Let us know that our voice is reaching far and wide. Let us know that there are practitioners of ancient African spirituality all throughout the world. I would love to hear that. I know that some of you are probably very close by, and I also know that some of you are very far away. Let us know where you are. Do we have some responses?
Yes, I see Amir Rael out in Dallas, Texas.
Ankin Ma'at to you.
Lady Het Davis, one of our initiates.
Ankin Ma'at. So that Lady Het. It's wonderful to see that you're there. One of our full members. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful.
There's Sen Gaston out in Arizona.
Sen Gaston in Arizona. How are you, dear brother? How is your queen?
We have Sinette Minnie out in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Ankin Ma'at, Sinette Maddie. Hattie. Sorry, Hattie.
Minnie. From Hattiesburg.
Oh, see, I mixed them all together. Listen, Brother Jabari, whenever you see me for Kemetic Ascension, just assume that I've gotten very little sleep. And then my brain is saying, what are you doing? So yeah, that's what's going on today as well. Ankin Ma'at to you.
We have Sen Brandon Moore.
Ankin Ma'at.
Travel with us.
And Sen Brandon Moore is one of our full initiates. Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at.
We have Shahid Douglas, one of my students.
Ankin Ma'at to you. Sen Shahid. Ankin Ma'at.
Sen Zach Carter.
Ankin Ma'at. Ankin Ma'at.
He came over with Jamar in Indy.
Say again?
Came over with Jamar, I guess, in Indianapolis.
Came over with Jamar? Are you saying, I remember Jamar came with a few of his friends. This, you know what, the pandemic makes everything feel like you don't even know when stuff's happened. Are you saying that you had actually come to the Shrine of Ma'at? That's what I'd like to know if you're saying. Ankin Ma'at to you, it's good to see you.
Brandon is currently in South Africa.
Brandon, now I remember that Brandon was a traveler, right? He was a traveler. So I am envious of you, dear brother, because that's one of those places. It's still on my bucket list. I know Anika really wants to go. We actually haven't been to South Africa yet. So all of the connections you make, just shoot it over to us on email. Ankin Ma'at to you.
There's Sen Jason Holmes out in Lincoln.
And you know Sen Jason Holmes is one of our full members. Well, my good brother who's a history buff like me. It's always good to know that you're out there, Sen Jason. Hopefully I'll see you soon too.
We have Ma'atin Walker from Las Vegas.
Ankin Ma'at to you in Las Vegas. Hopefully I'll be out in Las Vegas soon. You'll hear me announce it here so that maybe we can hook up as well.
Sinette Anitra out in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Ankin Ma'at, Sinette Anitra. We had a conversation this week. I don't think I sent you your tracking number. I don't think I did that. Brother Jabari is standing here trying to look normal, but he injured his back pretty seriously. So most of, is this what, Friday and Saturday? Most of the day I tried to mostly have meetings laying down. I've done a lot to be in good stead, but your items are on their way. I think they're supposed to come on Tuesday, if I remember correctly. So hopefully by Tuesday, you'll have your items. And we'll talk later in the week as well. Ankin Ma'at to you.
Tyson, that's where you're from. And we have
you like Mike Tyson on the... No, I'm sorry. Listen, I have had very little sleep.
There's someone watching in from Chicago, says a bet. Family from Chicago, let us know who you are.
Family from Chicago? Is that Senaton?
I don't know if it's
Okay.
We have Aaron Williams. Welcome. Tell us where you're from.
Ankin Ma'at.
Sekou Kelly out in Canada.
Ankin Ma'at Sen Sekou. Now, you know, Sekou and I read the same stuff. I really want to be able to meet Brother Sekou because we end up getting into confuffles, let's call them confuffles with people. They assume that Sekou and I like live in the same place and we're trading notes, but it's simply because we've read the masters, right? So, Sensei Sekou, it is always an honor to have you here. A really, really good scholar who's doing the work and always approaches people with respect as well.
We have somebody named Yoga Girl Sky out in Never Neverland.
She said Never Neverland. Did she say that, or are you putting that on there?
That's what it said.
Really? Ankin Ma'at to our priestess all the way out there in Connecticut. Ankin Ma'at to you, Abutsa Shot. I'm not sure why you say Never Neverland. You know you in Connecticut. You just a few hours away from here. I don't know why you say Never Neverland. She's in Connecticut. Yep. It's wonderful to know that you're there. Ankin Ma'at to you.
We have Isaac Jackson. Tell us where you're from.
Ankin Ma'at, send Isaac.
Calburn Reed from Jamaica.
Jamaica Queens or Jamaica in the Caribbean? I'm assuming if you say Jamaica, you're talking about in the Caribbean. Are you in Jamaica or are you from Jamaica? It might be both, but still, I want to know whether you're telling us that we're reaching Jamaica right now.
We have Heru Asad Ankh Amun-Ra out in Dallas, Texas.
And you love saying that name. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Sen Heru Ankh Asar Amun-Ra.
We have Anjana Khan Malo.
Yes, one of our full members out in Florida. Ankh and Ma'at to you. I hope you and your wonderful family, your beautiful family are doing well.
We have Kobe in Taiwan out in Flint, Michigan.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Sen Coben is a regular, right? How you guys aren't telling us how long you've been part of Kemetic Ascension. You just haven't been announcing it. Okay. She's acting like she didn't get no sleep either. That's what it is. You know what I mean? That's what it is.
We have Miro Idialo. Tell us where you're from.
Ankh and Ma'at. That name is familiar. Idialo.
We have Mfalme Netter Jelly.
That's from Phoenix. He's in Phoenix. Ankh and Ma'at. Sen Mfalme. Hopefully soon to be an initiate of the Shrine of Ma'at, and then later in the priesthood training so that he can get his Ankh. Because I know he's texting about his Ankh right now. Yes, yes. I knew that he was going to say that. Ankh and Ma'at to you, dear brother. I miss y'all in Phoenix. I had a really good time hanging out with you all. I guess this is what? Is it 2 weeks ago now? Maybe it's 2 or 3 weeks ago. Ankh and Ma'at to you. You know what? It was 3 weeks because we didn't have Kemetic Ascension, so it was an off Kemetic Ascension week. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Yes, and now we have Aaron Williams they're from Arkansas.
Ankh and Ma'at, Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Netateri Abakam Shishat out in Phoenix.
Netateri Abakam. Do I know that person? Is that Priestess Dior? That might be, I'm trying to remember her Kemetic name. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at.
Sen Tehuti Forever is here.
Sen Tehuti Forever from Phoenix. Ankh and Ma'at to you from Benue. I'm not sure if, now I know the folks in Phoenix know this, but I don't know if the rest of you know that the term Phoenix is meant to be a description of a Kemetic principle. When the Greeks got to Kemet, they heard this great mythical story of this bird that grew older and then burst into flames and was renewed. That bird we called the Benue bird, but because most of the Greeks, maybe none of the Greeks, wrote the language or read the language, they always come up with their own name. So they started calling that Phoenix. So when you hear Phoenix, you should know that we're referencing something that is strictly Kemetic, filtered through the understanding of foreign people. So if you hear me say Benue, know that we're talking about those people in that city that you may have heard in Arizona, known as Phoenix.
We have Sanette Cheryl Lee out of the DMV.
Ankh and Ma'at, it's good to hear you. You know we live in the hood because the brother just walked up with a speaker playing something from his radio, and he's standing right in front of our house. Anyway, Ankh and Ma'at. In the 80s, brothers used to have the big boom boxes on their shoulders, right? At least it was hard to carry the boom box on your shoulder. These days, with these tiny Bluetooth speakers, these brothers could make noise anywhere. I'm getting old because I had a boom box on my shoulder at one point too. I'm getting old. Now it does nothing more than interrupt Kemetic Ascension. Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Larita Ward Turner out in Clinton, Iowa.
Wonderful. Clarita?
Larita.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Clinton, Iowa.
Larita. I was processing some information when you said the name, so only half of it came into my brain. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Sinette.
And Lady Day out in Virginia.
Ankh and Ma'at.
Heru Jehuti Patat Mika Temra.
Ankh and Ma'at. Ankh and Ma'at out in California, out in Oaktown. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Isaac Jackson out in Long Island.
Ankh and Ma'at. I think you said Isaac Jackson, but we didn't know where he was from. Long Island's not far from here. Obviously, it's still in New York. I wonder where. Now I'm going to ask him another question. Where in Long Island are you? Are you way out there in Long Island? Or are you near to us in Long Island? Are you like in Elmont or are you like in Riverhead? There's a big difference, right? Elmont, you could be walking in Queens and find out that you are in Long Island. Riverhead, you got to drive, probably an hour or more from Queens to get to the tip of the island. Long Island is very long.
Taseti out in Denver, Colorado.
Ankh and Ma'at to you out in Denver, Colorado. We don't often have a lot of folks from Denver. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
We have that wonderful couple, the Shapers, out in Ghana.
Are they in Ghana? Are they back in Ghana? Or are they still in Kemet?
In Kemet.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Now, I know Anika speaks to you regularly, but definitely we have to say that we are absolutely excited about your residency in Kemet, and I cannot wait to hear more about what that experience has been like. I'm hoping that you didn't get sick too. I'm hoping you didn't get sick. And that's what Jabari thinks, because my 7 or 9 times to Kemet, I got really sick. So I'm hoping that you are in good stead as well. If you do get sick, by now they probably figured it out. Please go get Antanol. Okay? Now he's going to walk back in the other direction with his speaker.
And our condolences.
Yes. Our condolences. There's someone that was in great trouble. So I'm not sure if you want us to share that here publicly, but you should know that we are asking the Neteru and the ancestors to guide you and your family through this difficult time, and to make sure that the individual that had some issues is put back in good stead. I don't believe that it was someone becoming an ancestor. It was someone becoming an ancestor. So we're asking for their successful journey on the boat of Ra. If you'd like us to pray for that person, please remind me what the name was so that I can do that.
There's Sinette Ishiria, who fractured her arm.
Really? Oh no. I'm really praying for your health, for your Sinette. Sinette Ishiria is one of our full members. She's out there in North Dakota, I believe, right? North Dakota? MD? I think you're in North Dakota. I'm hoping that you're feeling okay, because breaks are usually painful. I hope that you're dealing with it as well as you can. And we're asking for the Neteru to bring Seneb into your home and to heal your arm very quickly.
And Anitra says that she's sending healing energy to you.
Oh, dwa. I need it, because I'm standing here trying to look normal. Might you notice I'm leaning on the podium a little bit more than normal? Listen, I'm trying to do everything I can to heal my back. I am asking for Asar to provide me with the Jed to give stiffness, rigidity, and life to my back as I stand. Ankh and Ma'at.
We have Ayana Mead out in Greenburgh, New York.
Yes, Ankh and Ma'at to you, Ayana, Sinette Ayana Green. You said Greenburgh? Mead.
Her name is Mead.
And Greenburgh, New York. Mm-hmm. Right. See, I'm switching them all up, y'all. I'm sorry. And I haven't had coffee either. This is my coffee here. So coffee with a little bit of almond milk. I haven't had it yet. Ankin Ma'at to you. I don't know where Greenville, New York is. Greenburg, New York. Can you please let us know? I don't know where that is. I'm assuming it's north of us, maybe far north, even though Anika and I have spent quite a bit of time in sort of upstate New York. So usually I'm familiar with the names. Can you let us know where that is?
There's Massaset Rod Nefer Atum out in Boston.
Ankin Ma'at Massaset. Ankin Ma'at out in Boston. We have an initiate in Boston, a full member. She may be on as well. Sometimes she pops in for Cometic. Often she pops in for Kemetic Ascension. Talking about Sinette Newt, who was in Boston.
Cabaret says that they're from Jamaica.
Ah, okay. Ankin Ma'at to you from Jamaica.
And T-Jaw is from Atlanta.
Ankin Ma'at.
And we have
ATL in the house.
In Buffalo.
Yes, DZ Young is a regular. You're still not telling us how long people are saying. Wow. See, she's doing things differently this week and then looking at me when I'm not connecting. You see this? I wish you could see I should have a switcher up here unbeknownst to her so I can switch back and you can see the strange look she's giving me most of the time. See, she's able to do that and no one is able to see. And now she's sticking her tongue out at me. Yes.
We have How to Be a Successful Black Man, who I believe.
I wonder who that is.
That is our brother, the doctor in the house.
That is our brother, Dr. Daniel Roach, who traveled with us this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm really hoping that you're doing well. He was on Tuesday talking about his work and his book. Please get a copy of it. It's an excellent book, particularly for teenagers and below, because it really provides you a blueprint for you to really grab hold of your dreams and do the things that you truly want to do. We know that this environment, this society puts up so many roadblocks towards a successful Black man. In fact, some of them are violent roadblocks. So his book is a really good example of what you should do.
He's on the way to get his COVID booster and flu shot. So he's telling everybody to get that.
Yes. Now, you know, people are going to try to beat him up, but I'm going to say to you, before y'all try to jump on him in the room, Jabari has had his boosters, 2 boosters, and also my flu shot. And somebody going to say, that's why your back is out, Jabari. Yeah, okay. Anyway, just know that we need to do everything we can to keep ourselves in health in this troubled time. And in addition to that, you should recognize that vaccine technology is African. Stop giving the Tomhu so much credit. We developed that and brought it to the United States.
Yeah, Jordan Nelson, watching for 4 years out in Phoenix.
Ankin Ma'at. So that other person was not Abu Dior. I think it's Dior, because D and an apostrophe or. That's the priestess who was made a priestess by Baba Heru, who was out in Phoenix. Ankin Ma'at to you. We still have to schedule some time to talk more about the things that we'll do together in Phoenix.
And Jason Edwards in Benue.
Ankin Ma'at to you out in the Benue.
Robert James.
Benue coming strong.
Robert James out in UK.
Ankin Ma'at to you.
Yes, he's been watching for 2017. We have Cleo Ford, one of our full members.
Ankin Ma'at.
We have Sinette Kawanda. Traveled with us twice.
Yes, Ankin Ma'at. I think Sinette Kawanda has Ghana in her blood, like we do. She's been to Kemet with us and also to Ghana twice. And she has Ghana in her blood like we do. You should know that it is just one of those places that, you know, you really enjoy being in. By the way, the chief from Ohio that we've worked with for so many years got his dual citizenship this week. That's big, not just for him, but for us, because we know that the Shrine of Ma'at is going to be up in Ghana. And many of you some of you are probably listening to me right now and not recognizing that your journey actually will take you to Ghana as well. Knowing that we're going to be able to actually put some permanent roots there is going to be amazing. So you should know that we're going to be submitting our applications very shortly as well.
And she also says that her Houston mascot was the Phoenix.
Yes, 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 yes. The Bennu, the Bennu, the Bennu. Wonderful, Ankh and Ma'at. And you should know I'll be talking to the folks from Phoenix after Kemetic Ascension. We'll have a conversation with them. So if you're in Phoenix and you're not with that gathering, make sure you reach out to Sen Tehuti Forever so that he can connect you to the conversation.
Larry Stanfield out in Whiteville, North Carolina.
Ankh and Ma'at to you.
St. LaQuisor Davis out in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but lives in Castle Rock, Colorado.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. In Castle Heart, Colorado?
Castle Rock.
Castle Rock, Colorado. Now, not a place I've heard of before. Sounds very interesting. I wonder what it looks like to have a name like Castle Rock. Wow. Ankh and Ma'at to you. On the other side of the country.
Nayana Mead says she's near White Plains, New York.
So you're not far. I don't know that area.
I was actually nearby that area.
Yeah, I don't know that area. Yeah, White Plains is right outside of New York, so close that you could be in the Bronx and be in White Plains and walk and not even know that you've gotten into White Plains. So you're really close by. Someplace I need to figure out where it is. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Let's see. Aruko Olarum is here.
Ankh and Ma'at to you. He's a regular listener. The Olorun is a Yoruba name as well. Both names are a Yoruba name.
Nathaniel Turner.
Ankh and Ma'at to you, a regular.
Tanisha Dalila Bates.
And send Nathaniel. Are you the Nathaniel in Baltimore? Let us know if you're the Nathaniel in Baltimore. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Sinette.
Ferguson's in North Carolina.
We'll say again?
Yeah, the Fergusons in North Carolina.
Oh, the Fergusons in North Carolina. Ankh and Ma'at. The Fergusons that are full members of the shrine?
It says Tower T.
I think that might be our full members out there in North Carolina. Ankh and Ma'at to you. I think that's who you are. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Jason Edwards says, I'm actually from Alabama. I was saying that I knew you guys were talking about the history of the bird. Oh, okay.
He was answering the question. Go ahead. Okay. I'm having lots of questions for you to answer today, too. So.
And yours, okay, so Jor is, I'm sorry, I'm getting this all confused. Her Kemetic name is Amut Nebu Nefer Amenti.
Yeah, so that wasn't the other name. And I have to learn your Kemetic name. Boot Dior as well, so I can call you by your Kemetic name. Ankh and Ma'at to you. And my understanding is that she did meditation with the Bennu folks today as well. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Ankh and Ma'at.
Christian Ellis here. So let's read from again.
Another person that's been with us for a long time. Sometimes the names get confused in my head, but I know that I've spoken to Christian Ellis before. Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Lisa and Kofa McCoy out in Mobile, Alabama.
One of our full members, a very active member. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Sen Lee. Hope all is well. Haven't spoken to you in a little minute, but Ankh and Ma'at to you.
Shahid says he's wanted to go to Ghana since '91.
Yeah.
It's time for you to come with us.
Listen, it really is amazing. And you could just go to Ghana yourself, but I really suggest you go with someone who knows where you are, because one of the things that happens, and this is for everyone that's traveled to Ghana with us, some of the people that have traveled to Ghana with us then go on their own. Why? Because when we go, we introduce you to our connections. And when you know our connections, they're always going to be saying, hey, when you coming? So one of the sisters, one of the Senetu that traveled with us this year, a sister that we went to Cornell with and have known for many years, she called Anika and said, are y'all going to be in Ghana at this time? She was like, no, why? She's like, I just got my ticket. So you should know that she traveled with us this year and she's already on her way back. Ghana just gets in you. It really does. It's one of those places that eating some wonderful kiliwili while you're sitting at the ocean, eating, watching the waves, and recognizing that it's a country that has considered itself a Pan-African haven is an amazing space. Okay, no more bigging up Ghana right now. You can tell because I want to get back. I really do want to get back.
We have James Garcia, tell us where you're from.
Ankan Ma'at to you.
Shamika J out in Tampa. Nathaniel says
Ankan Ma'at to you.
he's in Bend, Oregon.
Bend, Oregon, Bend.
Bend, Oregon.
Right. Okay. Ankan Ma'at to you.
See Ashley Amara. Hey, Sinette Ashley, how are you out in Vegas?
Sinette Ashley in Vegas, one of our full members. Ankan Ma'at to you. Hopefully, I'll be out there soon, and we'll go and break some bread. Hopefully, we'll see you soon. I met her in a restaurant. We were sitting next to each other, and she's a full member of the Shrine. It's wonderful that you're there, Sinette.
We have Sen Ronald Green out in Alton, Illinois.
Ankan Ma'at.
And the Schaefer said that her name is Alyssa Danielle Thomas. She was murdered, stabbed to death, and burned unrecognizable. Dallas PD is not doing their job. 33 years old with 3 children.
I don't think I captured how horrific it was when you were telling me the story. Anika was really moved by the challenge of what occurred. And I think when she told me the story, I was half asleep. So the name is Alyssa Danielle Thomas. And so we are asking, can we all set our divine intention for a second and ask the Neteru and the ancestors to assist the Schaefers in this difficult time, to assist the family and the friends of our wonderful Sinette Alyssa Danielle Thomas, who is making her journey. We know that the circumstances of her journey are difficult. We know that the manner in which she has become an ancestor is painful, but we must remember that death does not destroy us, that we are immortal, that we continue on in different form, that we continue on as glorious golden entities after this physical one is no longer in existence. And so we are doing 2 things today. We are asking for justice. We are asking for the sickle of Ma'at to be brought down upon the officials in Dallas. We're asking for whoever harmed this sister to be brought into divine justice in any manner that the Neteru see fit. And we are also asking for the wondrous journey of our Sinette Danielle, our Sinette Alyssa Danielle Thomas, to be made completely as she makes her transition, as she enters the Hall of Ma'ati. Please know, family, that she will contact you to let you know that she is on the other side and feeling no pain, that she is on the other side and looking at those of you who loved her, who cared for her with concern. Sinette Alyssa, we are calling on your divine soul. We are hoping that you are in peace. And we know that the folks of Dallas who are part of our community will not rest until we are sure that the circumstances of your transition are made clear and those are brought to Ma'at. I say Twanter, Twalwinter. And I know that that's really rough. And both of you are so far away that you're not able to really spend time with her family as well. So I know that that's really rough. I'm hoping that you all are holding it together there in Kemet where you are. Is that most of the folks that that have come in?
Just a few more. We have James Ma'at in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Ankan Ma'at.
We have Big Payback Porter out in Hobart, Indiana.
Ankan Ma'at. I like that name. I always think of that James Brown song whenever you say it. Ankan Ma'at to you. Ankan Ma'at, Ankan Ma'at, Ankan Ma'at. I really want to thank you all for being here. Please gather around those of us who are struggling. There are members of this community who are dealing with some really heavy stuff. And I'm really hoping that you will gather around them, gather around the Schaefers, gather around all of those individuals who we have mentioned and those who we have not mentioned who are dealing with some really heavy challenges right now. As a community, we have to ensure that we support those people who are fine members of our community. So please reach out to people and see how they're doing. Okay? I hope that you all will do that because the integrity of our family is really up to you. It's so difficult for us to do that these days as we are doing so much virtually. It's been years now that the Shrine of Ma'at has just had the two of us in it. And that is, by the way, that's not fun for me. And I'm hopefully going to announce soon that we're going to reopen. But I really want you to ensure that while we are virtual, we are still communal. Don't let the internet make us feel too far apart. In fact, the internet should make us feel closer to each other. So I'm imploring on you, family of the Shrine of Ma'at, to gather around, to gather around. Okay. At this part of our gathering, you know that we begin the formal portion of our gathering in the manner that our elder, Baba Heru Ankh Ra Samad Se Patah, taught us to, with that ceremony known as the opening of the way. It is a ceremony that helps us remember just how powerful we are, just how incredible we are, that we are eternal beings, that we are divine beings, and that all of those challenges that we have cannot defeat us. So please stand in the position of adoration. That means that you're going to stand with your left foot forward and your right foot back, and then you're going to expose your palms in front of you. As you expose your palms in front of you, your right hand should be a bit further. Your left hand, I'm sorry. You know, I got distracted. This is a really funny thing. In order to operate our robotic camera, you have to expose your palms. So whenever we do that, it turns blue and it's saying, what do you want me to do? And I know it's going to go crazy. So it's distracted me. Put your palms in front of you. And then what I'd like for you to do is put your left hand a bit further forward, your right hand a bit further back, and your right hand can be a bit further down. Now, sometimes I see people like this breaking their wrist. We never see that on the images that our ancestors have left for the position of adoration. If you're going to bend your wrist, just bend them ever so slightly, okay? This is the position of adoration. It is a position that allows us to both give and receive divine energy. So please stand in this position with me as we begin the opening of the way. We're going to take a deep breath from the abdomen, not from here, from here. And we're going to chant out the word for life, Ankh. Now listen, don't go Ankh because it's only coming from here. Go Ankh so it comes from here. You want to draw the energy from here to here. Does that make sense? Let's do it. Take a breath.
Anetrak in Bethet.
Anetrak in Bethet.
Nuke in Bethet.
Nuke in Bethet. Anetrak Hapi.
Anetrak Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Twelve Winter.
12 Winter. Anetrak Serket.
Anetrak Serket.
Nuke Serket.
Nuke Serket. Anetrak Keb Senu.
Anetrak Keb Senu.
Nuke Keb Senu.
Nuke Keb Senu.
12 Winter.
12 Winter. Anetrak Ast.
Anetrak Ast.
Nuke Ast.
Nuke Ast. Anetrak Amset.
Anetrak Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Nuke Amset.
12 Winter.
12 Winter. Anetrak Neat.
Anetrak Neat.
Nuke Neat.
Nuke Neat. Anetrak Dwamutef.
Anetrak Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
12 Winter.
12 Winter. Anetrak Newt.
Anetrak Newt.
Nuke Newt.
Nuke Newt. Anetrak Geb.
Anetrak Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Nuke Geb.
12 Winter.
12 Winter.
Anetrak Shu.
Anetrak Shu.
Shu. Shu. Shu. Shu. Nuke Shu.
Anetrak Tefnut.
Anetrak Tefnut. 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 Nuke Tefnut. 12 Winter. Anetrak Paut in Teru. Nuke Paut in Teru. Anetrak and Boo in Teru. Nuke and Boo in Teru. 12 Winter.
Dwa.
winter. Dwa, dwa, dwa. Dwa to you. Dwa to you. It's going to follow her again because she put her hand up last. Ankh and Ma'at to you. Let's see if I can get it to move this way. Come on, follow me. It's recognizing me. Come on, palm is up. Okay, now let's go. Come on. It's not doing it. I got to turn it manually. I'm telling you, this camera is driving me crazy. Good camera, but we're not using it for all. It's really crooked, isn't it? Not using it for all of its features. And because we're not using it for all its features, it's doing a little too much. You're doing too much, camera. You're doing too much. So let me say to you that I'm pleased that you have come to Kemetic Ascension. I'm pleased that you have been part of Kemetic Ascension today. You know that at this part of our gathering, okay, come this way now. Come on. Come this way. Follow my hand. Follow the hand. Come this way. No, it's not following. It's recognizing my palm. Anyway, it's good. Oh, now it's going to go right into my face. Look at this. Like, did you want me? Yes, I did want you. Come down. Okay, good. Turn it this way. Turn the handle this way. No, the other way. Yes. Okay.
That way.
Yes, that handle, turn it that way. That's good. No, I didn't mean more.
I'm trying to get it.
Level, it's pointed too high.
Yeah.
Wait, no, don't. Just do this. Look.
It's on the ceiling.
Still on the ceiling. The reason why it's on the ceiling is because it's looking at me. Robotic camera. Anyway, let me go ahead and greet you. Well, not greet you. Let me go ahead and tell you that at this point of our session, we go into Hesi. Hesi is the manner in which our African ancestors proclaim the divinity of this world that we live in sound, in harmony, in chanting. It is Kemetic gospel before the word gospel ever existed. So today we're going to do a piece. We're going to have a piece by that wonderful couple who was from Dodowa. Well, they're from Texas, living in Dodowa, Ghana, and currently in Kemet for a residency. So they are globetrotters, the Schaefer's. Which piece are we going to be doing? Iri. This one is a Hesi that was written by Anika and performed marvelously by them. I think Anika is telling me that Baba Heru is in the house. Ankh and Ma'at to you, Baba. I hope you are doing well. He is our elder. Please set your divine intention and give our elder some myrrh. Just give him some energy and ask that the Neteru and the ancestors assist him in this decades-long walk that he has been in. He's really in his 6th decade in the tradition. And his walk is our walk. So we are asking that the Neteru assist him in this walk. I know that he was really working diligently to complete all of the orders that people have made. That's a good thing. But you know, when you support his business, sometimes you can just hit him off with a little donation, right? It doesn't always have to be that he has to do hard work when you're supporting him. So please, if you could even just let us know, Baba, I'm not sure if you know what your Cash App is, but it'd be wonderful to put it in the room right now so that folks can give you some love. So let's continue. We're going to hear the Iri Hesi, written by Anika, performed by that wonderful couple, the Schaefer's. That was beautiful. Anika, can you tell us a little bit more about what they were singing?
Talk about that. Make your heart as light as a feather.
So it really is a song that connects directly to the concept of Ma'at. Make your heart as light as a feather. I know who wants to know that song because I remember he made a song that had words in English about your heart being as light as a feather. That is Baba Paor. So we really need to make sure that he gets to hear this song that has a similar concept. The concept of finding ourselves back in divine balance, finding ourselves back into Ma'at. And so it's a wonderful piece. I know Anika wrote it. I remember hearing her sing it and record it and then send it to the Schaefer's and they sang it and mastered it beautifully. So you're actually hearing the Sonette Kenya's voice, and the mastering is done by Sen Charles. And so they really, I'm sure that their studio is kind of small, but you would never know it based on what they're able to produce because their stuff is as professional as anybody's stuff. That's a really talented couple that we're very honored to be able to have in our midst. So dua again to you for assisting us on that Hesi. At this point, we go into what we call a word from the Seba'it. And you may be familiar if you're a regular participant, if you're a regular part of Kemetic Ascension, you may know that the word from the Seba'it is a word from the wisdom literature of ancient Kemet. It is a body of works that tells us how we can find ourselves, the path to Ma'at, how we can live in Ma'at. And it is a wonderful, wonderful body of literature. In fact, I will say to you, it is the world's first body, first genre. Because the reality is, at least two of the books in that genre are the earliest books ever found. So think about that for a second. Not only are we saying the first text, the first written text, the oldest written text, that has been discovered is a Kemetic text. It's a text that comes from African hands. But we're also saying something else very interesting to you, that they created more in that genre, in that realm, so that they actually have a body of literature that does the same thing. This is important. So today, I want to do a little bit of a diversion. There's been something that's been on my heart that I want to try to address. But today, we're not going to read from the Sebayit. We are going to read from Kemetic text, but we're going to deal with the Kemetic concept of the divine birth. This is simply part one of this discussion. And the reason why I was driven to talk about this important topic is because I have spoken and heard from so many people in other communities, particularly in communities that are in the Abrahamic traditions, that have argued that the Kemetic story, the Kemetic narrative, does not have a divine birth, does not have, as they would say very clearly, a virgin birth. And there are several people who are littering the internet that are saying that the Kemetic narrative does not have that. You might ask, well, why are they doing that? Because they would like to claim that concept as part of Christianity in and of itself. They would like to say that the Virgin Mary, as she is known, is the only person, or at least the first person, to have a virgin birth. And so what they do is they claim this on the internet. They really give very poor sources. They haven't read very much. That's part of the challenge, is that the people who are critiquing the Kemetic tradition aren't familiar with the Kemetic tradition. They don't read anything. They don't read anything. And that's the challenge that we have. So today, what I'd like to do is give you some of the sources. All of the sources will be in my forthcoming book. Some of the sources that deal with the Kemetic concept of the divine virgin birth. And so as we begin this discussion, you are seeing the images of these two divine mothers. One on the left is known as Ast or Osset. Ast or Osset. Please, if you are one of those folks that says Ast, please don't argue with the people that say Osset. Those are both renditions of the Kemetic name of the Great Mother based on the ancient African glyphs. Because the Kemetic language does not transcribe many of its vowel sounds, we're not exactly sure if it should be rendered Ast or Osset or even Ist. So I want you to recognize that that is part of the challenge that we have in rendering the name of Ast. Now, does that mean that because we're not positive how it was spoken that you should not call the Divine Mother? Please do not go down that fallacious road. And then on the right, we see an image of Mary and baby Jesus. That's what this is supposed to be. Notice that they are both feeding the divine child from their breast. When you look at these images, you would have to say it's quite interesting that these two ladies are doing the same thing. The thing that you should know is that the images of Ast feeding the divine child are literally thousands of years older than the ones we begin to see of the Virgin Mary in the Christian tradition and in the Muslim tradition. Mary does not exist in the Judaic tradition, but she is in the latter two major traditions of the Abrahamic traditions, in Christianity and in Islam. And in fact, it's interesting that the Quran has more written about Mary than the Christian Bible does. You may not know that, but that's certainly something that we should be aware of. So today, let's actually show you how the virgin birth does, in fact, first occur with Ast, that lady that the Greeks ended up calling Isis. Let's do that today. Before we get really into the sources, I want to show you what some of the folks that are very popular are saying. Because if you haven't heard it, you will. I'm going to ask for those of you who are watching right now, how many of you have confronted people who are challenging you in your understanding that the divine, quote unquote, virgin birth is first a Kemetic reality? How many of you have been challenged? And I'm going to say to you, some of you who haven't will be. You will be. Because those forces that are trying to argue against this fundamentally African story are gathering storm. They are gathering storm, and they're gathering in strength to push back against the African traditions. You may remember that there is a documentary that is watched by a lot of people right now. It actually just debuted on Amazon Prime that critiques all of those practitioners of the Kemetic tradition. Particularly, and it even has 2 clips from Jabari Osase. By the way, the clips are so small, they do not let me get into what I was saying. It's like a sentence, because they would rather tell the audience what I was saying than listen to what I was saying. In fact, they didn't even give my name. Why didn't they give my name? Because they knew their audience might say, well, who is that brother right there? I need to go check him out. Really, really, really slick. I peep your game, unspoken documentary. I recognize it. So some of those folks say things like this. This particular argument comes from a very well-trodden website called Belief Map. Belief Map. They say their major argument as Christian apologists against the virgin birth of Ast is that they first say scholars agree Horus was not virgin born. By the way, what scholars are they talking about? Which scholars are you talking about? Scholars agree. That's a really, really slick way to say it. It's almost like when you see those toothpaste commercials and they say, 4 to 5 doctors say that Crest is a really great toothpaste. And you always wonder, well, what do you mean 4 out of 5? Who are these doctors that they've been talking to? That's the question you should ask yourself. Well, that's what they do here. Scholars agree. As if the people who have made the argument that they are confronting are not scholars. Why don't they just say biblical theologians agree? And the reality is not all biblical theologians agree either. So this is what they say on their website. They say Horus, notice they're using the Greek name, Horus had a biological father, Osiris, Greek name again, and was conceived through sex. Belief Map argues that there are only 2 different versions of how Heru was conceived. Now, see, this is one of the things that they do. We'll talk more about the structure of these arguments. But one of the things that they do is they might listen to one person describing a birth narrative from ancient Kemet, and they run with it. Why do they only look at one? Because they are looking at the Kemetic tradition through the Christian, Islamic, and Judaic lens, which tells them that this must be a literal story, so there can only be one. That's what they do. That in and of itself is the largest error that you can have when you come to Kemet. Do we have a comment or question?
Yes. Do you believe Jesus was a metaphor for the sun? And what do you think of the Karas consciousness within?
When you say sun, you're talking about sun, S-U-N. Yes, I do believe that Jesus is and was a solar deity. Yes, I do believe Jesus was a solar deity. And I believe that this Karas consciousness is part of what some wise people who are in the Christian tradition were trying to say that we ought to obtain. Unfortunately, a group of folks who are literalists and patriarchs rendered the tradition as both historical and male-centric. That's what they ended up doing. So that concept of Christ consciousness is, in the way they tell the story, only something that Jesus had. When in actuality, and this is the part that always gets me in trouble, but I'm a priest of Ma'at and I must tell the truth as I know it. Jesus is not a historical character. Jesus is a mythological character that was attempting to tell people who were ensconced in the Jewish tradition and other traditions in the region how to live. That means that the story of Jesus is not irrelevant. Simply because I am saying to you that the story of Jesus is mythological does not mean I'm saying the story of Jesus is irrelevant. And that is what Christians and others need to hear me say 87 cajillion times. The reason why they feel attacked is because of that group of individuals who would then become the Roman Catholic Church, by the way. Those individuals, those Europeans that wanted to create a literal story so that their story could be preeminent among the other stories that had the same exact characteristics. Those people won. And because they won, people view Christianity in a certain way today. So this is more that they say. These are the two stories they say. There are only two versions. They say Horus was conceived by the union of Osiris and his wife Isis just before Set killed Osiris. These are direct quotes, by the way, as you can see. And the next one they say is Horus was conceived by the union of Horus and his wife Isis just after Set killed Osiris and scattered him. The union of that they made a typo because I took this directly from the site. The union of Osiris and his wife Isis, just as Set killed Osiris and scattered pieces of him, and Isis reconstructed him, creating for him a new penis, since a fish ate that piece of him. Those are the two stories they give. And they say here, scholars generally agree that not even one pre-Christian source identifies Horus as virgin born. What? Not even one pre-Christian source identifies Horus as virgin born. I am telling you, they've gotten so arrogant that they have set the bar very low. So you're telling me if I can only find one, that everything on your website is false? You've gotten so arrogant that you've made it easy for Jabari. Well, I am going to invalidate. I am going to annihilate. I am going to erase belief map today. This concept that you hear them describe is false. Is false. They aren't the only ones. Take a look at this one. These come from the website known as Voice from the Dallas Theological Seminary. Notice it's a theological seminary. And from a site called crossexamined.org. Notice that when they mention cross, they're talking about the cross of Jesus. That's kind of slick. I think that if I was a Christian, I would do that too. That's kind of cool, right? Ridiculous what they say, but creative in their name. These two sites are curious because they have verbatim the same explanation. Somebody doing something fishy here. Neither of them cite a source. So where did they get it from? When I say verbatim, I'm saying they are word for word the same explanation. And neither site lists each other. So where did they get it from? Listen here. Their major argument is the virgin birth of Christ was not patterned after these other myths. This comes directly from their site. In Egyptian mythology, Horus's mother, Isis, was already married to the god Osiris for some time before his conception. Furthermore, the best Egyptian account of the myth reveals that Horus was not born of a virgin. So the idea that the church copied the story of Jesus' virgin birth of Christ from Horus does not work, as there is no ancient evidence of a story about Horus being born of a virgin. Once again, in your arrogance, you have set the bar so low. You've given me light work. This is light work. This is the kind of work that I could have been going to the supermarket to buy myself some Brussels sprouts. I eat Brussels sprouts all the time. Anika's laughing because she knows I eat Brussels sprouts anyway. I could be going to the store to get some Brussels sprouts for my morning breakfast, and someone could approach me on the street with this argument, and I could diffuse it before my tofuti begins to thaw. That's how easy this is. Because this argument is also false. We will debunk them today. We will debunk them today. Now, as I do this, I want you to recognize, by the way, you'll see that the theologians here on the right, the one in black and white, the Tom who in the black and white is the one that has put together the crossexamined.org website. And the brother on the bottom, who is a decent person who I disagree with. I don't think that Eric Mason is a bad individual. Please let me say that. I don't like some of the stuff he's done. He played a very large role in that documentary I'm referring to, very large role, and didn't even have the decency to tell someone that he knows that he was going to use his voice, his image in the documentary. I did a debate in their church. I did not give them permission to use me in their documentary. If I was a litigious person, I would send them a cease and desist order and they would have to take the documentary down. But I would rather enter into a dialogue around these issues. Some of you are probably saying, Jabari, send them a cease and desist. I bet you somebody in there is saying that. But I want you to listen to the contours. These are the 6 major contours of the arguments that Christian apologists, who are being very disingenuous, by the way, ignorant and or disingenuous, are making against the virgin birth of us. Listen here. The first argument is that scholars agree that Isis or Ast did not have a virgin birth. That's the argument they'll give you. Scholars agree. And you have to ask yourself in response, which scholars? Do you mean biblical scholars? Who do you mean? Let's at first establish who you're referring to. Because they certainly aren't referring to Jabari Osaze, who has a degree in Africana Studies and 2 master's degrees and is about to complete his doctorate. Which scholars are you referring to? By the way, neither of them have read Kemetic text. One of the things that Dr. Eric Mason, the brother on the bottom, says is he even says, people will tell you that stuff comes from the Book of the Dead. Well, there's a bunch of Book of the Dead. Which one? None of the texts are called the Book of the Dead. Maybe the reason why you're confused is because 1, you've never read it, and 2, you don't have any interest in reading the text. If you said to me, which one, I would say, brother, there's only one text that modern folks call the Book of the Dead, that should be more appropriately called the Reyu Pert and Heru Emger. The book of coming forth today from night. Only one. What do you mean there's only one? I mean, what do you mean there's more than one? He says that on camera. So we have to ask them, which scholars? Are you referring to biblical scholars? Because then we'll get up all into the biblical scholars, because there are biblical scholars who will disagree with him as well. Let's continue. Number 2 is that the Kemetic virgin birth, I'm going to call it here KVB in short, that Kemetic virgin birth adherents are simply against Christianity. They're saying that we are biased in that sense, that we will use anything to say something negative about Christianity. And my response to them would simply be, you have to understand that most of the KVB adherents were once Christian. Their default setting is not anti-Christian. And you have to understand that these apologists are the ones that would consider themselves anti-pagan. Isn't it a very interesting way that they try to mar people who are no longer part of the Christian tradition, saying we just hate Christians. We hate the tradition. In fact, I've heard people have said this to me, and I say, why would I say I don't have enmity for Christians? That would mean I have a problem with my own family who are Christian. Many of my friends are Christian. I know more Christians than I know Kemites. People who know and love me are Christian. I don't just have a problem with Christianity. That's not my default setting. I was raised Christian, went to Christian schools all the way up until I went to college. Received all of the rights of Christianity except marriage. Dua Baba Heru, who married Anika and myself, and the death rights. Those are the only 2 that I did not receive. So the reality is that the apologists are the ones that have problems with people who are not Christian. That's what their issue is. Eric Mason in the documentary says that we got the the Kemetic tradition from three Tamhu European scholars who were mystics. I won't even say scholars, mystics who were inspired by the devil, by demons, he says. Would I ever say that Eric Mason is inspired? He's inspired by demons. Would I say that? Who was the one that has a problem with the other one? What kind of argument is that? Is it possible that we have a scholarly discussion that we ought to have? Can we do that without you telling me that I am the spawn of Hades? Is that what you're trying to say? That's the kind of arguments they make. Number 3, they claim there are no original sources from Kemet that include the virgin birth. And of course, you have to ask them, which Kemetic text have you read? Have you read Kemetic texts widely? They're going to say yes immediately, but then you just ask them about some text and you realize that the answer has to be no. And the reason why the answer is no is because they are anti-pagan. By the way, the word pagan is offensive, but that's the word that they will use for people who are not in the Hebrew, Christian, or Muslim tradition. And because they have this problem with people who are not in those traditions and call us pagans, you should know that that's the reason why they have not read these texts. I have a family member now who told my mother that she might not ever come into my home because we have a statue of Buddha Nataraj at our doorway. Not because we're Buddhists. Yes, Buddha in the backyard. Yes, she had an issue with Buddha in the backyard, but we have Shiva Nataraj in the doorway. We're not Buddhists. We're not Hindu. But you should know that she said that she might not even come into the space because a statue. We are students of world traditions. I have a master's degree in interfaith studies. So this is one of the reasons why we do this, and we find them quite interesting and beautiful. Number 4, the apologists look for irrelevant differences as proof of the lack of Kemetic primacy of the Christian myth. This is really slick. If the story that they are citing in the Kemetic tradition is not exactly the same as the one in the Christian tradition, they say that it's irrelevant. Now, ain't this a ditty? You are looking at the great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchild of a tradition, and you're trying to measure the great-great-great-great-grandparent by the standards of the great-great-great-great-grandchild, who is both wayward and has no respect for their elder. You should know that the Kemetic tradition was remixed through the social mores of people who lived in the Mediterranean. And as it was remixed, there are differences. It's that simple. If the Kemetic tradition and the Christian tradition were exactly the same, then we would all be Christians. What argument are they making? Simply because you see some differences, that means that one cannot be the source of the other. And that is ridiculous. The way that I usually refute this is I usually say, and this probably will date me, but some of y'all got gray in your hair too, like I do. I usually look at the difference between the movie Spaceballs and the movie Star Wars. Clearly, if you have seen Star Wars and you see Spaceballs, you understand that one is based on the other. In fact, Spaceballs is a parody of Star Wars. If you've seen Star Wars, you know this. They're not exactly the same. They don't need to be for you to see the similarities. But they want you to ignore your lying eyes and not be deceived by your truthful ears. That's what they want you to do. We're going to defeat all of this today. Number 5. Yes, number 5. We also hear them argue that KVB adherents are not credentialed in the area. They don't have a doctorate in Egyptology. The funny thing is, neither do they. What do you mean? In that documentary and others, they say none of these people have any scholarly credentials. And the person that says that is a sports anchor. So unless we're talking about the Knicks, you should not be talking by your own rubric. That's basically what you said. And I would love to see what your degree is in, if you have one. I'd love to see what your degree is in, as you want to critique people's degrees. I want to be clear that many of us are credentialed, but the credentials themselves are not the reason why we are able to make a comprehensive, erudite argument. I learned so much more about the Kemetic tradition, about ancient African traditions, after I received my degrees. So the degrees themselves don't validate our discussion. That's a really interesting way to look at it. And they themselves don't have any degrees in these traditions, so what is the argument? Okay. Number 6, this is the final one. They claim that KVB adherents are incorrect because they can't read ancient languages. First of all, you should understand that many KVB adherents do read the Medu-Neter. I do as well. I have always said that in my institution, the better reader is my wife. Anika Daniels Osaze teaches the Medu-Neter. I am not in her class. When I read things, I check with her. Is this what I'm seeing? That's what I do. But the funny thing is, that's the standard they would like to give. We can't be Kemetic practitioners if we don't read the Medu-Neter. No one ever recognizes that they're reading all the stuff that they're using against us in English. You saying you can't be a Christian adherent because you don't read Aramaic and Demotic Greek? Is that what you're saying? The Bible was written in Aramaic and Demotic Greek. Most of it was written in Demotic Greek. If you don't read Demotic Greek, are you saying you can't be a practitioner? And are you saying you don't understand the Bible if you don't read those languages? Is that what you are saying? This is a really bizarre argument. And they will continue to use English in all of their sources, in all of their arguments, and then say that we should use another language. We usually have more language proficiency than they do. Very interesting. So let's deal with some of this. First, let's just say right off the bat, without reading any sources, the similarities, read my air quotes, between us, who the Greeks then called Isis, and Mary, also known as Miriam, of the Bible and the Quran, are astounding. Of course, you see this image of us suckling the baby Heru, and you see the image of Mary suckling baby Jesus. Look at how similar these images are. I know that one is a tomboy, one is a woman of European descent. I get that. But look at the similarities. They both hold the breast to the mouth. The children are both asking for nurturing of the mother. Look at the hand of Heru clasped around the right hand of Ast. And look at the hand of baby Jesus clasped around the hand of Mary. By the way, these people are really, really pale. I would really love, if you think that this is a literal story, it's very interesting. I don't think anyone in that region has that skin tone, but this is the way that they rendered these images. One has clearly influenced the other. One is has clearly influenced the other. And you should know that if you want to know what people actually think, look at the oldest churches in Europe. You will see that every single one of them has a Black Madonna. Look at this one. Does anyone know where this Black Madonna is from? I know that's a tall question because there are so many of them that whenever any scholar attempts to give a definitive list of all of the Black Madonna statues, by the time they finish the list is already old. Sometimes these churches will have European-looking Madonna and child statues up above, but below where the priest, where the bishops pray, has the Black Madonna.
One person says Vatican.
This one's not in the Vatican. This one is in Montserrat, Spain. Montserrat, Spain. There are so many of these images. Why are they there? Sometimes those Christians that inhabit these churches say the reason why they are there is because they burn so much smoke, and they burn so much incense, and they light so many candles that it darkens the skin. You know, I'm gonna tell you, this is a real racist smoke because it never darkens the clothes, just the skin. I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense. In fact, I know that when I was driving down the block here in Manhattan, I see that one of the churches that is marked to be similar to a European church has a Black Madonna statue outside now. Keep following me. You're going to see me actually talk to folks in that church because I'm going to go and talk to them about the images that they have outside of their church. So as you look at this, know that these are all over the place. In fact, they're so common that they're now outside of Europe themselves as well. I think that these statues exist because there were practitioners in the ancient world, or even in the more recent world, that recognized that their tradition was an older tradition, was an echo of an older tradition that was from the continent of Africa. And they say sometimes that these statues do miracles. Interesting. And of course, we know that Ast did not stay her African self. That when Europeans became powerful enough to control the region of Kemet and its surrounding region, they also changed Ast. Look at this statue. This is known as Isis lactans. Isis lactans. Where is this statue? You see that this is a Tamhu Isis with likely a very rotund, and Tamhu Heru, he's a little rotund child in this one. But can you see that this image here is clearly not from the continent of Africa? Where is it from? I wonder if you can tell. So notice how the juxtaposition has occurred, right? They've Tamhuified, they've Europeanized the African images, while there are some practitioners who have Africanized the images that they would like to have Europeanized. Do we have any answers to that question?
Greece.
It's funny because the person that said the other one was from the Vatican would have been correct if they said it again. This is in the Vatican Museum. Jabari? There's a statue of Ast, a European Ast, and Heru in the Vatican? There are several. There are several. You better understand that. Let's continue. The other thing that is a great similarity, and this is in fact why the story, the narrative of the Virgin Mary has been so powerful in Christianity and in Islam, and also why the narrative of Ast was so powerful in the ancient Kemetic world and the area surrounding it, is because Ast was the lady of great mourning. She was a powerful queen who had actually had to deal with great calamity. Her husband is the first and the most powerful ruler of the most powerful nation in the world, and he is murdered. And she can't even really, truly mourn the passing of her husband, the murder of her husband. She then has to flee with her sister because she knows that their brother, Set, also, I think the oldest rendition of his name was probably Setesh, was chasing them because the person who was on the throne when Asar was outside of the country was Ast. So the people would have looked for Ast to sit on the throne after Asar has died. And then, of course, we find out later that she is bearing the heir. So she is doubly marked by Setesh, by Set. She is in sorrow. Look at the image of her holding her head. This statue is in the Louvre. I did not know where it was until I went to the Louvre. Take a look at that, holding her head. And the one below, I think this one might even be in the Brooklyn Museum. Can you see her holding her arm? This is supposed to be an image of her being in sorrow. This is really, really interesting. It's powerful. It's powerful. And you can see here one of her names is the great divine mother. If you look here, you'll see her name here. Do you see the throne and then the half moon and then this sort of oval piece? That's the name of Ast. And she is the lady, the cobra is a symbol of Ast. And you see this small bird with the mouth, that's Weret. Weret. Were. This behind the bird, you see this little, it looks like a dash, that's supposed to be the T. So it's supposed to be Weret. And then this Mut Nefer, divine mother. She's the great divine mother. Do you see the little thing behind the bird? That's supposed to be the T. So you should understand that, and it's a really small, dashy looking T. But you should understand they're saying were, at least they're saying were, if not Weret. Were Mut Nefer. You see that vulture there? Mut. And then that flag looking or axe looking thing is the Neter. She is the great divine mother. That is the name that she has been given. This is very important as we look at the narrative of Ast. But you should understand that a similar thing occurs in Christianity. Look at this statue here on the right. It is a very famous statue. What is it called? And who created it? What is it called and who created it? These are questions I'm asking because as you make these arguments yourself, you should be able to directly reference statues, text, dates, times. So, what is this statue called and who is its creator? So you're seeing Mary here, obviously, mourning the death of Jesus. So just as Ast became so important in the Kemetic tradition, so important that outside of Kemet, if you found a Kemetic temple outside of Kemet, and there were many, most of them were temples to Ast. Because one of the things that happens is everyone knows that sometimes SH happens. Everyone knows that sometimes you're going to be visited upon infirmity, calamity, sickness, death. And so you're going to call on the divine lady that had to deal with it as well. There are many, many prayers and songs to Ast. There is a whole text known as the Lamentations of Ast and Inbethet. And then a version of that becomes the Songs of Ast and Inbethet, sometimes called the Songs of the Two Kites, kites referring to the bird, the kite. These are all these songs about how sorrowful they are because Asar dies. And in their sorrow, they work to bring Asar back to life. This is very important. Do we have an answer?
The Pieta.
That's the name of the statue, yes. Created by who?
Michelangelo.
Michelangelo, that is correct. That's the Pieta by Michelangelo. Who gave that answer?
So Tassetti said the Pieta, and we have an anonymous person who said Michelangelo.
Who said Michelangelo?
Yeah,
you should
Tassetti
know it.
also said
Who said that?
Tassetti.
Tassetti, okay, good. So you should know these statues, right? Mm-hmm. You should know these statues. There are many statues of Ast and Inbethet in mourning. Many of them. Go to the museums nearest you and take a picture. When you take a picture, send them to us so we can continue this dialogue. Send them to us. And when you do, use the hashtag Ast the Virgin. AST the Virgin. Hashtag Ast the Virgin. If you follow us, we'll show you some more of these images this week. Hashtag it Ast, AST the Virgin. We're going to get this going viral. So, just as Ast was seen as an important aspect of how you deal with difficult things, so was Mary. In fact, I'm going to say to you that many of the leaders of the early Christian church were really dismayed because they were trying to create a tradition that was really rooted around men. And the general people, the average people, continued to pray to Mary. So much that they had these arguments about what happened to Mary. Was Mary divine? Did she die? Did she ever have children? They had all these conversations because the people would not let her go. Why? Because she had to deal with pain and agony like they had to deal with pain and agony. this is what occurs. Yes.
There are a few comments. Tessity says that he's seen several Black Madonnas in Europe, including Our Lady of Montserrat. I was told that Our Lady of Częstochowa in Poland,
yes,
who Pope John Paul II worship, was not really Black.
Yes, they're saying that now. They're saying that now. In fact, there's some folks who say that they've cleaned it and it's no longer Black. I've seen that conversation. By the way, that same Black Madonna is the one that practitioners of Odun use in their tradition now. Fascinating, fascinating. Yes.
And an anonymous user says, everybody copies us from Frigg to Iana to Mary to North Sacred Mother, who sits above the Capitol Dome in D.C.
Oh my goodness!
The dome is the pregnant belly of Ast.
Now listen, whoever is writing that anonymously needs to tell us who they are. Because basically you're entering in a conversation that this is almost like a Jabari and anonymous conversation. I mean, what he's basically saying is that in the Mediterranean region, with these traditions that are known as the mystery traditions, we see many versions. And these versions of virgins, let's say that. We see many versions of virgins. And they all begin with Ast. That is correct.
He says he believes that Ast is a real being.
I don't believe that Ast is a literal person. I believe that Ast is one that is invoked in all of the beautiful mothers that struggle to bring beautiful children into the world. And this is important as well. So please, let us know who you are. Let us know who you are. By the way, you should know, one of the other things that some of the Christian apologists have heard that we need to acknowledge is that they have heard, including they've heard me say this, by the way, that Ast, her name, one of her epithets was Mary. And that might be why they begin to call the mother of Jesus Mary. And they say, well, everybody was called Mary in the Kemetic tradition. Anyone who was beloved was, yeah, that's true, but that doesn't invalidate what I'm saying. All you're doing is arguing, yes, that it was a common name in the Kemetic tradition. That doesn't invalidate what I'm saying. See, because they're looking for a literal story that has to occur one way, they think that if they see other people in the Kemetic tradition that have that title as well, that invalidates it. That does not invalidate it. Your literalism confounds you. Your literalism confounds you. Let's continue. Let's go into some of the sources. Now, let me say to you that one of the sources that everyone cites, that I'm not going to even cite today, I'm only going to give you 3 sources. That's it. There are many more. There will be more in my forthcoming book on the African origins of Christianity. It'll be named something slightly different. But it's coming soon. I've been doing research for years. I've just begun to really flesh out the outline. And lectures like this will help me finish it. So today you're hearing it from a practitioner's perspective. I'm going to do a similar lecture on Sonetter's platform that will be simply from a scholarly perspective. And so, but look at at some of the sources. I'm going to give you 3. But before I say that, I was going to say that the source that most people cite is Plutarch, because Plutarch also mentioned that Ast was a virgin. And I'm not going to Plutarch. And that's just simply because many of you have heard. Why is it my internet's not working? Many of you have heard of Plutarch and heard he said that. So what I am not going to do is I'm not going to go the easy route. Does that make sense? Why would I do that? Plutarch is a Greek scholar, and many people would like to invalidate what he says because he says that that Ast was a virgin. That doesn't invalidate it. In fact, I even heard one guy, I'm not going to call him a brother anymore, that says, well, you can't use any of the Greek sources. Now, let me say this to you. I do not agree that you cannot use Greek sources. I think that you should be cautious about Greek sources. Why should you be cautious about Greek sources? Because when you read the Greek sources, sometimes they just got some stuff wrong. So what you should do if you're going to use Greek sources is you should look for sources or things that are earlier that seem to confirm what they are saying. The other thing that we have to recognize with using the Greek sources is that the Greek sources predate the Christian sources. There's a reason why they want us to ignore the Greek sources. Because even the Greek sources predate the Christian sources. So when the Greeks say Ast or Isis had a virgin birth, they don't, by the way, they're saying this is what the Kemetic people believe. That's what they say. Plutarch writes a book called Et Iside and Oricide. I think it's basically in English of Isis and Osiris. That is what he is writing. And I want you to recognize that when you look at this book, you're going to see that he is saying this is what the Kemetic people are saying. He is not saying this is what we believe. And this is really important. It's really important for us to recognize that that is the way that these traditions were rendered. Could the Greeks have gotten it wrong? Sure. But then look at the earlier Kemetic sources. If they seem to be similar, then what we need to do is recognize that the Greeks are not just wrong with every single little thing they said. That is what they do. By the way, these same folks, the Christian apologists that would like us to remove the Christian sources, are the ones that sometimes when they say that, I say to them, it's interesting. So I shouldn't be reading things in Greek, and they say no. And I said, well, then that means you have to discard your entire New Testament. It was written in Greek. This is really bizarre. Just be prepared for these arguments because you will have them soon too. You will have them soon too. Let's continue. So here's one of the sources. And it comes from what are known as the coffin text. This is Middle Kingdom. Middle Kingdom. This is so old that I don't think there's any record at all of people that would become the Hebrews during this time. None. That's how old this is. And this is from Utterance 94. The modern scholars often call it spell 94. I don't like the word spell. So you're hearing me here render it as Utterance 94. And this is the part that tells us that our Sar actually is the progenitor of Heru through his soul. So remember when they were saying he had sex and all those other things? The coffin texts tell you that we're talking about a soul. Listen here, it says, causing the soul to escape from the corpse. Corpse is a horrible translation, but I'm reading what they said here. Another book for going out into the day. I am this great soul of Asar, who was with the Neteru, commanded to copulate with him. He living on high by day. I have remade Asar from the efflux, which was in his flesh, from the seed which issued from his phallus, his Hananan, at the going out into the day, that he might copulate with it. I am the son of Asar, his heir within his rank. I am the soul within his blood. I am he who uncovers the great crown of Lower Kemet, which belongs to Asar, the uncovering of which the Neteru fear. Because I am this great soul of Asar, whom the Neteru commanded to copulate with him. He living on high by day. I have remade Asar from the efflux of his flesh, from the seed which issued from his phallus at the going out into the day, that he might copulate with it. I am he who opened the places of slaughter, and the foreparts are ready. I want you, when you read this, you recognize that the Kemetic people are saying it is the soul of Asar. It is the soul of Asar that provides the seed for the creation of Heru. It is the soul of Asar that provides the seed for the creation of Heru. By the way, this is very similar to the description of, quote unquote, the Holy Spirit. It is the soul of Asar. This is in Utterance 94. Let's continue. And then in coffin text, Utterance 148, how is the description of Ast receiving the seed given. It says, the taking shape as a falcon. This probably means that Ast is a falcon in this image. The lightning flash strikes and the Neteru are afraid. Ast wakes up pregnant with the seed of her brother Asar. The woman raises herself in a hurry, her heart rejoicing over the seed of her brother Asar. And she says, O Neteru, I am Ast, the sister of Asar, who wept for the father of the Neteru Asar, who parted the slaughterings of the two lambs. His seed is within my body, and it is as the son of the foremost of the Aenead, who will rule this land, and who will become the heir to Geb, and who will speak for his father, and who will slay the enemy of his father Asar, that I have molded the shape of the Neteru within my egg. You can see here that she is impregnated by a lightning flash. She's received the seed of Asar by lightning flash. Does this sound like this is coming in the way that all other pregnancy occurs? By the way, I will not use the word immaculate conception. That's the word that the Talmud used for the story of Jesus. Why do they use that? Because they are claiming that all other conception must be filthy. If one is immaculate, then the rest is filthy. I would rather say that this is a spiritual birth that does not occur in the same way that other men and women create their offspring. That Asar is a soul and Ast is a divine intert, a divine lady. That is what we are seeing. She continues, come, O Neteru, so that you shall make his protection within my womb, know in your hearts that your Lord is he, this Neteru. Now that she receives the seed of Asar, she then says, protect this seed. Why is she saying protect the seed? Because she knows that Set is looking for her to destroy her so that he can take the throne for himself. The rest of this, utterance 148, goes into that. In fact, it is Ra that says to her, okay, if you do have the seed, be quiet because Set is looking for you. So you know the story in the Bible that says that Mary and Joseph have to hide with Jesus? That story is so much deeper in the Kemetic tradition. Because the entity that is looking to destroy Heru is looking for her when she's pregnant, before she's given birth, and continues into that narrative. This all comes from the Kemetic tradition. All comes from the Kemetic tradition. And this comes from the coffin text. This is long before the Greek narrative. Long before. By the way, in the book, I'm going to talk to you about some other sources that come even from the Merkutu text, the Pyramid text, the world's oldest spiritual literature. Those talk about a divine birth by a virgin, but they don't say who that virgin is. But you can see the concept of the virgin birth is one that is ancient in Africa. Here's another source. This comes to us by a papyrus that is known as the Papyrus of Nesmin. The Papyrus of Nesmin. It is in the British Museum today. When E.A. Wallace Budge described it, he called it Nessie Amsu. You're going to see either Nessie Amsu or Nesmin. They're talking about the same text. You should know that Nessie Amsu or Nesmin was a priest. And the person that bought it is a man named Bremner. So they often call it the Bremner Rhine Papyrus. That really, honestly, we should not be calling it by the guy who purchased it. I drive a BMW, but all BMWs are not known as Osaze cars simply because I bought one. That would be ridiculous. But unfortunately, I have to issue the name. Why? Because when you're doing your research, you might have to look for the Bremner Rhine Papyrus. unfortunately. Unfortunately. You can see here that it's a hieratic papyrus. I cannot read hieratic at all. At all. But I am going to say to you, the person who translated it, when he was talking to the other scholars, he wrote it in the formal version of the Medu-Neter language. I can read that. I'm going to show you that in a second. So when you look at this text, recognize that scholars have been talking about this for a long time. This one deals with the songs of Ast and Inbet-Het. The songs of Ast and Inbet-Het. Now, the most complete version of this papyrus does come from the Greco-Roman period. But even the scholars that are reading it say, first of all, it's in hieratic, the African Kemetic language. And in addition to that, that's just the most complete one, that they know that these songs are actually very old and come from long before that. But even though you're looking at a papyrus that comes from the Greco-Roman, from the Greek period, you should know it still predates the Christian period. When the Greeks were saying the Kemetic people believe of a virgin birth, they weren't even thinking about Christianity. Did not exist yet. They were just reporting what they heard. And that report went into the rest of the Mediterranean, and then the rest of those ladies were then described as virgins who gave birth. Everyone from the mother of Pythagoras, all the way to the mother of Mithras, to the mother of Attis, all of them described as having a virgin birth because they were following the archetype. They were following the original. They were following your ancient African mother, Ast. That's what they were doing. So look at this here. This is from the Journal of Egyptian Archaeology, and it is written, this article is written by R.O. Faulkner. R.O. Faulkner. Why is Faulkner important? Someone tell me why. I'm looking at Anika. She's like, why are you even asking me that? I was talking to the whole audience. Anika's like, you can't ask me that question. You already know I know that. I knew Faulkner before you did, is what she's probably thinking. And that is true. She did. But why is Faulkner important? Yes, he's a Talmud scholar, but why is he important? So he writes this article, a scholarly article, by the way, called The Bremner Rhine Papyrus 1 by R.O. Faulkner. A, the songs of Isis and Nephthys. And as he writes it, he's going to translate it. Look at what he writes in the translation. He says, here begin the stanzas of the festival of the two kites, which is celebrated in the temple of Asar, he says Osiris, first of the Westerners, the great god, Lord of Abydos. I'm going to just read what he says. I'm not going to translate them into what the Kemetic language would be. In the 4th month of inundation, by the way, they're telling you when to do this ceremony. The 4th month of inundation, from the 22nd day down to the 26th day. This is a 4 or 5 day celebration for Asar. And it's called the Festival of the Two Kites. Kites, meaning that both Ast and Inbet-Het, or in this instance, Inbet-Het and Ast, transform themselves into two birds. Let's go. The entire temple shall be sanctified, and there shall be brought in 2 women, pure of body and virgin, with the hairs of their bodies removed, their heads adorned with wigs, tambourines in their hands. You thought the tambourine in your church came about because pastor liked the sound of tambourine. You had better understand that that is an ancient African practice. That sound, that is an ancient African practice. Yes.
It's a question, how to get a copy of the text that you're quoting from.
It would be self-serving for me to say that there'll be copies in my book. No. Listen, if you just simply search for these, you'll find them. This particular article you'll find on JSTOR. JSTOR is a repository of scholarly texts, right? You'll have to sign up. You can sign up for free. They're going to ask you to pay, but you can sign up for the free version. It will allow you to read 100 articles a month. By the way, I often get down to like 30 articles and I start to sweat because I will look at that many scholarly articles. I have been researching this for 30 years plus. Right now, mine says, because I didn't look as much in October, mine is down to the 70s, and I'm already starting to sweat. What happens when I get to the end? I'll probably have to start a new account. Yes.
The anonymous user says, is Faulkner important because he translated Middle Kingdom dictionary?
Who is anonymous?
He's been saying all kinds of stuff.
Anonymous, you need to let us know who you is. Is that Baba Heru sneaking in there and answering the question?
Writing in here too.
You should know that R.O. Faulkner, yes, is the translator of the pyramid text, the Merkutu text, and the coffin text. He is definitely a scholar who is well aware of Kemetic text. His translations have been used for many years, even though he is long dead. In other words, this stuff has been available for many years. I think this article is from the 1930s. And they want to make you think that the reason why we're saying that Ast is a virgin when she gives birth to Heru, is a virgin when she receives the seed of Heru, is because we saw it on Zeitgeist. That's what they'd like for you to hear. Yes, Anika.
So now it says it's Sen-Atan.
Yeah, another ringer, right? Another ringer. Sen-Atan, who is a full initiate of the Shrine of Ma'at, and someone who does as much reading as one can imagine. By the way, when I asked everyone to have pictures of the morning Austin in Bedhead from their museums, I'm sure that Sen-Atan, who has two really great museums in Chicago, Sen-Atan goes to the Oriental Institute Museum all the time. He sends me pictures of stuff from there all the time. So he's a ringer, right? He's a ringer. And I'm glad that we have ringers in the shrine, people who are doing research, because it's not just about practicing. If you don't understand what happened, how do you know that what you're practicing is authentically African? That's why we have to become priest scholars, practitioner scholars. Yes, Anika, you were saying something else.
He says, Abjur is where the Amen concept is from. The Phoenicians borrowed Amen from Karnak. See the Wind and Moon story.
He's reading. He's reading.
And Hero Sar Ankh Amen Ra says the Sasheta is the instrument.
Yes, the Shasheta is what we often call it. Anika's divine rattle is here someplace. Here's her divine rattle. It started with this sound. And now it's the tambourine. By the way, the hand drum is even something that we see in Kemetic temples. We see these. These sounds are divine because your ancestors decided that they should be so. Let's continue. So they say that these two women, pure of body and virgin, with the hair of the bodies removed, their heads adorned with wigs, tambourines in their hands, and their names inscribed on their arms, to wit, Isis and Nephthys. And they shall sing from the stanzas of this book in the presence of this God. What are we reading here? I want you to understand that this is the introduction to the text. Remember, I told you that this was a papyrus owned by the priest Nesmin, also known as Nessi Amsu. What you are essentially seeing is that what we have understood now is that the priest was the person who was responsible for this ceremony to occur in the temple. That's what this is. That's what this is. So the priest was the one that made sure that this divine ceremony took place in the temple. And this was taking place during the Greco-Roman period by a Kemetic priest, by the way, not a Greek priest, a Kemetic priest. What are we saying here? We're saying that people who could not read would have known this story, because this was a divine drama that was actually done throughout the land. Everyone knew that Ast was the divine virgin. Everyone knew. In fact, not even just Ast, but also Nbethet, or as they call her, Nephthys. This is a description of the ladies that they will use. This is powerful. Look at the commentary, by the way. In the commentary of this article, he says on 1:3 that the word is nen wepet sen, who have not been opened. That is the word that they use for the ladies they should use in this ceremony. They are ladies who have not been opened. And in fact, in the Westcar Papyrus, it even says that in this one, 20 women, nen wepet sen, em neset, who have not been opened by childbirth. Now, remember that I told you that the papyrus is written in hieratic. I can't read hieratic at all. But when R.O. Faulkner described this and wrote other articles that other scholars are supposed to read, he didn't write it in hieratic. Look at what he wrote it in. Anika, do you see this? These are his notes of what he's reading. Did the other scholars say you are wrong? No. Let me show you exactly where that word is. You might see it in the third line. Here's the word. Do you see that thing? You're reading it from right here to left. Do you see this thing that looks like a lump with these two other smaller lumps on it? It's supposed to be this. Look. The word nen is a shrug. It means none or no. It's negative. It negates something. It's so funny. It's like this. That's the no. Nen. Nen. And so you see the beginning of nen, and as the Kemetic language does, which I find very interesting. We could talk about this forever. Anika and I have talked about it. Right? The word, this symbol itself is nen, but in the Kemetic language, they'll often also give you the final consonant. So it says nen, and then you also see the n in nen there. You see these cow horns and the box. That's very interesting. That's wepet. But you see these lines on this thing by the X? That was damaged. That was damaged. That's what that says. It was damaged. There's something wrong with the text, so he can't see the T sound. But because he reads it everywhere else, he recognizes what the term is. And then you see the folded cloth, which is sen, and then once again you see the N sound, because they often do that in the Kemetic language. Yeah, well, they're using it as an S here, right? But you see it's sen. And then I was going to say, you see the 3 marks, 1, 2, 3. So it makes it senu. Why senu? Why is it pluralized? Because they're talking about 2 women. These 2 women should not have been opened by childbirth. These are the glyphs. These are the glyphs. The original is written in hieratic. But when R.O. Faulkner transcribes it, he transcribes it in the formal version of the language. That's what I can read as well. That is wonderful. Amazing. Now, you should know that this ceremony that they're describing, that the priest Nesmin is describing, has all of these sections where Ast is mourning the loss of Asar, where Inbet is mourning the loss of Asar. And in the end, they say, lo, here he comes. Because as they mourn his loss, their mourning and preparation is what allows his soul to come back. This is what you see in this image that comes from, well, you tell me where it comes from. Let's see if anyone knows where this image comes from. I want to know if you know where it comes from. I want to know if you know where it comes from. I'm hiding the book because I don't want y'all to see and then get the answer. I want to know if you know where it comes from. Let's continue. This is from part of the ceremony that these 2 ladies this lady who was playing Ast will read this. Ast speaks. She says, come to your house, come to your house. You of the Yunu, or on as the Greeks call it. You of the Yunu, come to your house. Your foes are not. Oh, good musician, come to your house. Behold me, I am your beloved sister. You shall not part from me. Oh, good youth, come to your house. Long, long have I not seen you. My heart mourns for you. My eyes seek you. I search for you to see you. Come to your beloved. Come to your beloved. It really is a beautiful a description of these ladies who are mourning the death of Asar. But in the end, he comes. And that's what this image is. Do we have any answers of where it's from, by the way? Do you see the Jed?
Stolen legacy.
Stolen legacy? Nice. Yeah, well, Stolen Legacy describes it, but I'm asking where the exact image is from.
The Book of Coming Forth by Day.
Whose Book of Coming Forth by Day?
That's the question he says. And Baba Heru says the Pert and Heru.
Oh, of course, Baba Heru said, look at the image in the book. This is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. If Baba is the biggest ringer in the world, okay? Baba could be up here doing this one. He's the biggest ringer. Look at this. I'm honored that you stayed, Baba. Look at this. This is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. You know that this is the Reu, Pert, and Heru and Ger. You know that. But this is a wonderful version to get because it has all of the images. That's where it comes from. Can you see that?
So Heru Sar Amun-Ra says it's by Faulkner, and another user says it's by Wallace Budge.
Which one?
The book that you're looking at.
This one, I believe, is the one that's translated by E.A. Wallace Budge. Yeah, this is the one that's translated by E.A. Wallace Budge. But if you look here, can you see the larger section of the papyrus? This is the image I'm showing you on the screen. By the way, you should know that means this is from the 18th dynasty. 18th dynasty. Not the Greco-Roman period. Look at this. This image you are seeing is the two ladies recognizing the resurrected soul of Asar. You can see that this Jed is a symbol of Asar immortal, his backbone. His backbone. The backbone is the symbol of resurrection because symbolically the backbone allows us to stand upright. And so it's a symbol of him no longer being. No, Anika's telling me, you going late, brother. I'm gonna be done in a second. That is the symbol of him being able to stand upright and to be resurrected. And you see the Ankh, the symbol of divine life, and his Ka, the soul, going towards the sun. And you see these 6 baboons, 3 on each side, in this rocky area, by the way, recognizing that his soul is going where? Do you see this blue arc here with the 2 triangles on the end? That's Pet. His divine soul is going into heaven. I'm telling you, as you look at this scene, that describes what you see in this story, the lamentations of Ast and Inbehet. You are seeing an image of the resurrection of the soul of Asar.
And the baboons are Jehuti.
And the baboons are Jehuti. And you should also recognize here, as you look at this, that they are talking about the ceremony that occurs, which occurs, where does it occur in the temple? Guess where it occurs? In the place in the temple that's called the Hall of the Appearings. So these 2 ladies watch the soul return of Asar. These 2 ladies watch the soul of the return of Asar. These 2 ladies, look at this image, you remember this one by Karl Heinrich, 1881, called The Resurrection of the Christ. These 2 ladies recognize the returning of the soul of Asar. He puts his hands to the heavens with the sun above. You had better understand the people that were making these images, that were painting these works, were familiar with the Kemetic tradition. When you look at them together, can't you tell? Can't you tell? In the story, there were 2 Marys that saw the soul of Jesus. In the Kemetic story, there are 2 Marys that see the resurrected soul of Asar. In the story, they come out of the tomb. He comes out of the tomb. In the Kemetic story, it looks like he comes out of a tomb to me. In the Hall of the Appearings, the temple. And he raises his hands. In the Kemetic sense, you know that they are saying that this is his everlasting, his ever-living soul. That's the Ka image. And when you read the text, it says that is his Ka, living forever and ascending into heaven. That's what we're seeing here. That's the reason why that story is so strange in the Bible. They got 2 Marys witnessing Jesus coming back. And then they go and they don't tell anybody. The Spirit says tell everybody, then they don't tell anybody. The reason why that story is so peculiar in the Bible is because it is an echo of an earlier story. It is not, they are trying to, for example, write a story that has all of the elements according to their own social mores. Yes, Anika.
Seshmeet wants to know the significance of the 6 baboons.
You know, it's really interesting. I could do a vibe on the baboons forever because I have long thought of that. And I don't know if I have a clear answer for you yet. I don't want to give you just what I'm meditating on. I want to give something I can find in the text, and I have not found that yet. But I will say that the baboons recognize the rising of the sun. You'll also see them on the top of the temple known as Rameses Mariamun, that unfortunately an Italian plunderer ended up calling Abu Simbel. You'll see them there. They recognize the sun at dawn. And this is a similar thing that is occurring. This dawn is the resurrection of the soul of Asar. And so these baboons, a symbol of Jehuti, are recognizing that his soul has come. That he has done what? If it's the sun coming up, what has he done? What has he done? He's gone forth to day from night. That's what this is supposed to be. So I want you to understand that as we look at this story, as we look at the story of Great Mother Ast, you are seeing the world's oldest description of a spiritual birth. And that story has its origin in ancient Africa. That story is a story that is older than Rome, older than Greece, older than the Muslim tradition, the Christian tradition, the Hebrew tradition. Because they have issued a new version of it, does that mean that we should be offended that they have a new version? No. The problem is, the reason why I say they pilfered it, they stole it, they done took it, is because they've taken the story and then they want to speak ill of its original version. Today, I want you to build an altar, practitioners, to us. Make sure that you are recognizing the trials and tribulation of us to bring forward the divine one, who in many ways is you. Be prepared to have these discussions. Be prepared to describe the primacy of the ancient African traditions. It will be important for us to defend the legacy of our ancestors. The divine force in me meets the divine force in you. Anika, I think I see that there's a question or a comment.
Yeah, Jason wants to know the significance between the hand positions, the different hand positions between us and the head. It looks like they're holding their hands opposite.
Yes. I think that the best way, I went too far. I think that the best way to describe this is that I think what they are doing is they are creating a divine circuit. That's what they're doing. Because one of them has their right hand up and the left hand down. And the other one has the right hand up and the left hand up and the right hand down. They're creating a divine energy circuit in which they resurrect Asar. By the way, they have opposite hands on the arms. I wish I could go into all of that now. We certainly don't have time. That's for a whole other discussion. But they are creating a divine circuit because these ladies are the ones that resurrect Asar. In the papyrus text, they are called the nurses. They're the ones that prepare his body. Sound familiar? They're the ones that are the nursemaids for his resurrection. Sound familiar? This is all the Kemetic tradition. And so what we must do here is recognize that your African ancestors gave so much to the world. So practitioners, you're going to be making an altar to us. And I also want you to read the coffin text today as well. Read the coffin text, what I often call the Debunking text, okay? Read those today as well. That's your homework. That's your homework. Brothers, you're probably going to give me homework at Kemetic Ascension? Yes. If you're a practitioner, you need to have homework so that you're doing the work that will assist our community to return to Ma'at. This is of importance. Other questions or comments?
Ursula Van Grant, actually one of your
Yes, she's one of the students. Yes.
What time are sessions and days? Our person seems to miss the times we're based in South Africa.
Sessions and times for classes?
sure.
The class moved from Monday to Tuesday. The class is now finished. You have all of the videos. I've sent them to your email. So you have all of the videos. And the email came to you that we switched days because of the length of the class, because we were going so long. So you'll actually see that all of the videos have been sent to your email. And also the assignments. This week I received final exams from folks that were in the class. You can still do that. For Ascension. Ascension is on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm not exactly sure what time you're in South Africa, but Ascension comes on at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and definitely you'll be able to do that.
Question me is asking how to make an altar.
I've had several sessions here on Kemetic Ascension on altar making. If you search our YouTube channel, you'll see us doing that, but definitely there will be more. I believe that altars are one of the most fundamental aspects of Kemetic spiritual practice. And so we'll do much more on altars. I was gonna do an altar today, but I recognized this lecture was going to go too long to do that as well. You should know how my Sundays go. I'm telling you, it's a whirlwind. From here, I'm going to talk to our folks who are building our new shrine in Phoenix, and then I have priesthood training. So I'm going for many hours. So definitely, we won't have time to build an altar to us today. Amika, please come forward for the final affirmation.
I'd like to just say du'au to all of you for such a robust conversation, a lot of chatting in the space today.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it was really great. So not as many announcements today. I know some of you were asking if you can join last minute for my MetaNetter class. We're up to session 2 tomorrow. The only way to join now is if you make your full payment today, and then I can send you the video from last week's class, and then you can get the link for the class starting tomorrow for the rest of the 9 sessions. So if you're interested, you have to make your payment by today in order to be part of the class at this point. Okay. I will be updating the website soon for information on the Kemet and Ghana trip. If you come back and check within a week, you'll have all the updated amounts, the itinerary, so you can see the locations. The dates will be July 13th to August 10th for a
July 13th?
I'm sorry, July 31st. Excuse me. July 31st to August 10th.
See, when she's talking in front of you, she can make some errors too. She just makes fun of me back there when I've been misspeaking. She was like, "What's wrong with you?" See that? She almost had people going to Kemet 2 weeks early. You've been sitting in the airport like, "Where's the group?"
Ghana will be August 10th to August 18th. If you'd like to do both, then you'll be there from July 31st until August 10th. So let us know which one you're
And you'll be with us the whole time. It's going to be an amazing trip.
You can also, we'll be picking up people from different locations all around the country. There's some people who join us from other parts of the world.
Yes.
So feel free to travel with us this summer.
And you should know that when you go next year in August, you're going to be having a meal in the Osaze house because it's really literally just a few days away from being completed. It's taking longer than we expected, but it's really close to being complete. So you'll be able to come to the Osaze house and have a meal.
Okay. So I'd like to end with one of the oldest prayers written in the Rewa Perten Hiruengere, known as the Amasu. So if you can please join me by standing in the pose of adoration, having your left foot forward, right foot back, left hand forward, right hand back. And I will say it in the language of our ancestors, the MetaNetter, and then repeat it in English. So repeat after me. Amasu and Panter.
Amasu and Panter.
Sauksu.
Sauksu.
Emitra.
Emitra.
And Panter.
And Panter.
Autu.
Autu.
Aura.
Aura.
Maketipa.
Maketipa.
Herura.
Herura.
Give yourself to the One Most High. Keep yourself daily for the divine. And do it tomorrow just as you did it today. Dwell winter. To the divine, and thank you to all of you.
Family, I'm so pleased that you were here with us today. I hope that you found today's section edifying. I just have to say to you, keep doing the work. Keep doing the work, and we will be all right. All right. Shema Ma'at, go forth in divine balance. Peace.